Hello and welcome to This and That. I'm Dave Lees.
And I'm Jonathan Byer. Hello.
Hello, welcome to the skating lesson. We are going to discuss everything going on in the skating and Olympic world. So if you're new here, subscribe below and smash that like button. Give us some validation. Jonathan, what is going on?
Please. Well, I got like a quarantine haircut.
Yes.
That was my thing to do. And the guy wore a mask and a face shield. It was like really very hazmat-y.
Okay.
So there you go. But I have to say the highlight of my Memorial Day weekend thus far was filming the conclusion of our 2002 Olympics last night.
Very fun.
I should have used this yesterday. We really hashed it out.
We hashed it. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we judged the 2002 Olympics over the last, and we're going to be doing the 98 ice dance. And while we're doing that, because that's going to take a little bit of time, but that's next on our docket, I was thinking, Jonathan, we should do the 87 ladies worlds, because why not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that Cincinnati?
That was Cincinnati, as Katerina Vega said. Yes.
Okay, amazing. Now try spelling it. It's a nightmare.
Yes.
Okay.
The Cincinnati world. Yes, why not? So.
Yeah, that would be a fun one. I did rewatch, because also you posted 81 ladies worlds, the final flight or whatever. And I have to say, that was pretty interesting to watch.
Okay, I have some questions.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to interview Denise Spielman, and now I want to interview her more. Okay, because she had an older sister who was not as good of a skater as Denise, so they made her become a telephone operator. It was just a very strange narration
because the fluff piece sounded like, so she ended up doing downhill skiing, and she was the world champion. No, they're like, so she ended up being an accountant. It was really sad.
She was a telephone operator. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Oh, telephone operator. Yeah.
And I was like, why couldn't they both skate? Did the mother literally go, we only have money for one, or I only have time to coach one? I don't know. I want to know more about that situation. Does she work out with Denise? Denise is still very active, so.
Completely, yeah. We saw her do all of her aerobics routines on the ice even, so.
God, that's who Igor should get for his classes. I'm going to tell him. Denise Spielman.
And play Push It.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to ask him. He always goes,
Let the beat control your body with Denise Spielman, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
I'll get a call from Igor. He'll be like, Dave, let me know. And Igor messed one up that I got. I'm like still embarrassed about it.
What do you mean?
Well, I got Igor to get a class with David Wilson to improvise something.
Yeah.
And when Igor called him on the phone, in his mind, because David's not a Russian, of course, Igor has no idea who he is. He's thinking that he's talking to Doug Webster from Ice Dance International, who's also very talented, but not David Wilson. And I was like, they're different.
Be better, Igor. Come on now.
He goes, I think I had a very strange conversation about a jazz dance class with David. And I was like, I think you did. Yeah.
I think you did. I think that's the only way that conversation could have gone. Yeah.
Yes.
But I have to tell you, I've been watching some of the Alyona
workouts. Yes. Mm-hmm.
When it was like you said, because you were mentioning a little bit in the Olympic video last night, that at one point it seemed like she could have been joking after the warm-up.
Yes.
Because the warm-up was literally so intense, everyone thought the class was over. And she goes, okay, and that was the warm-up. Yeah.
Also, 30 minutes into her class, she goes, okay, are we all warm? And
yeah.
The interesting thing about an Alyona warm-up, it starts at an intensity level of 6 or 7 when you're used to a warm-up that's a 3. So off the bat, she is...
Her baseline is running pretty high. Yeah.
The Alyona baseline is a lot.
Yeah.
And she gets very excited to teach her class, to share her fitness.
She is passionate about fitness. Like a Denise Spielman.
I would like her to become some sort of a Jane Fonda for people. I mean, instead of hiring Elton John, why don't we hire Alyona to work out with our skaters? They will be...
100%. She could demonstrate perhaps a bit more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Perhaps. I don't know. Yeah. And she kind of had a positive thing about it. So I was curious. You're an intense person, one might say. Someone might also say Alexa Knierim is also an intense person. So do you think that you would have thrived coaching under Alyona, or do you think it would have been too much the same?
I don't know. I don't know enough about her coaching.
Okay.
I think like fitness wise, I would love to work out with her every day. I do think that there's a level of exhaustion, and being a new coach, she may not know how to adjust to people who aren't her. However, I think that there's a lot to learn from her. So there's just like different factors.
But don't you think Alexa might have been more like her than not?
Yeah, but like Alyona is...
Maybe because maybe Chris wasn't, so it became difficult.
I don't know. You never know what happens there, but I think, she was I think people coach like how they would coach themselves, but that doesn't work for everyone necessarily. So I think, but I think she has a lot to offer.
Clearly.
Fitness-wise.
The energy is intoxicating. It's completely infectious, yeah.
What I like about Alyona is when she does her workouts, she doesn't know that like toes and toe picks are different things, because I think skating is just such a part of her. So she'll be like, up on toe picks, 50. And the accent is like not quite Ukrainian, not quite German. It's just very unique to her. And
it's vaguely European. Okay.
I think that she would do well working at the camps or something. She just has an intensity about her. It's real fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that was that. Yeah. I slept really well last night. My mom was like, "You slept a long time." I was like,
First of all, who's monitoring? Debbie, thank you very much.
We did Pilates at 10:30, so I mean, it wasn't like I was sleeping.
But now also, because you've been jumping your heart out.
Yes,
with Victor.
I had a double day yesterday because the jumping workouts are tiring. So, and
so is an Alyona workout. Like you are Alyona. See, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at.
She would have probably done 4. Okay, but for my. No, it was good. Yeah, I've been getting my axle with Victor Petrenko, so it is quite good.
Has training it with him made you look at his skating any differently, or anyone else's double axle differently now?
Well, I watch his skating to pay attention to what he's doing with with the mechanics of it, and then
does he follow what he teaches?
Yes, yeah, and he's made like subtle changes to it. He told me, but also, the great thing about Zoom and what we're in and working off ice is that because you can do different views of how you film the Zoom call, which I had to figure out, I film it in gallery view, so you see me and you see him, and then I can go back and watch the lesson and see what I'm doing and see what he's talking about, and it's like getting the information in my brain, and I think it's helped progress. And then the other thing I did is I moved a chair so that I wasn't jumping into it, because I think my body was doing things with my left side that I was like fighting myself and didn't realize why, and the problem went away when I moved a rocking chair. So
it's got to be so weird also if you're not in front of a mirror, because also I think there's an inherent like, no I didn't. If he was like your left arm XYZ and you're like, no it didn't, and then you go back and look and you realize, oh yeah, it did, it really did.
Sometimes you can feel it too. Sometimes you can feel it when you're in the air, and then sometimes it's like, oh, but like when I watch it, I see, so
it becomes that much clearer. I would
it's just so funny when you film it. Victor gets all up in the Zoom camera like this. He spots everything.
Well, the picture's small. I mean, I love it because he's looking then. Yeah,
it's very serious. He's like, I love it. I love it. You get a good Or okay. I'm like, you don't like it.
Yeah. Well, he could say worse then, so we'll take okay.
So Michelle Kwan told me that Victor would help her with her jumps when she was on tour, and the summer he did, she had a consistent triple outs, triple toe. So
should have hired Victor.
She could have moved and become a Galena skater, had one of those like dance break sequences. And I remember she told me that when she was coming up in skating, she loved to watch Oksana. She was riveted, as we all were. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming up in skating, like, Oksana was basically the same time.
Not really. I mean, she was like 2 years ahead of Michelle when she was coming up, She could be like 93. Michelle was like not in the worlds yet, so...
Yeah, I said she had to wait another year. Okay.
These are like very shades, but
Okay. God.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good. So yeah, I.
Now, was this the Alyona, the workout video I was watching of her? This is the one that we also saw on Instagram stories with Meagan and Tatiana and Vanessa. Okay.
Well, she does the same class, but my instructor did one. But the one that she did with Meagan and the other ones, it was just so surreal. And it's so funny if you know who the people are, but the fact that these are all of her major competitors that she's then correcting, being like, Tanya, back straight, and like starts like laughing. And I mean, they have a nice vibe between all of them, but like, we needed Sui. Where was Sui, and was she watching this workout? That's what I needed to know, because everyone else watched it in skating. Everyone wanted to see. They had one about pairs. I was like, it's not the same, but like somehow these personalities of Vanessa James and Meagan and
I want to watch them all together in a workout class, especially one that one of them is leading.
Yes. Especially Alyona being like, Meagan, come on,
point your toe.
Oh my God, it was so much. She's a lot.
And again, remarkable, because those are some pretty powerhouse women, 3 of which who just had children. And they were going to be like right back at it, like leading exercise classes in no time. Insane.
The other thing about Alyona that you think you could like kind of tell her where, as a coach, it would be hard to be her athlete, is that she doesn't really have a concept of time or counting. So she'll say, okay, we are going to do 10 of these. And you mentally prepare yourself through the exercise for what you're doing. And then you finish it, and of course you're dying. And she'll be like, okay, 10 more. Wait, what?
Yeah.
And so I don't know when she's saying the word 15 or 50, and knowing her, it could go either way. Okay?
Yeah.
There's the other problem. And, so usually, these workout sequences follow they kind of, even a yoga class, you start with your poses, and then you're doing your standing poses, and then you're doing your balance, and then, you wind up on the floor. We're 53 minutes in, and then Alyona's like, okay, we will go on the floor. And you're like, how long is this going to go? Because...
this should be the wind down.
She went a half hour over on the ISU workout, and people in the comments were like, too long. It's too long. Okay.
Then stop watching these people. It's then stop. What on earth are you talking about? You have
if you're typing,
Alyona giving you
how are you watching it on your YouTube and doing it? I'm not quite sure you're at full intensity level, but
yeah,
I don't know. There's just a lot going on, even with shoulders. She does a lot of. It's hard to describe why her workout is so hard.
Because it's unrelenting, isn't it?
Well, there's that. There's the pace, and there's no time off between any of the workouts. It's not like, okay, we did this, and we're dying, and we're going to talk about the next exercise as we rest for a minute. She moves from one thing to the next, and while you're resting, she'll be like, okay, and do a balance posture, and go like this as we're resting, and on the next workout, and you're like...
Whoa, yeah.
Oh, and she'll combine balance with everyone is into these light weights like water bottles or soup cans, and you'll be doing that with your arms as you're balancing with your legs in a spiral position, and then you'll be going from bent to straight and on releve, and you're like, there's a lot.
No, on topic.
On topic.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know what it is, but the Russians love to talk about coordination, and I've learned that is a word I don't enjoy in skating. Okay.
Okay.
You know when Fozzie Bear talks about patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time?
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one of the things we work out in our workouts when you start to get real intense is they start talking about coordination. And you're like, wait, you want me to do what with what at the right time? And you're jumping in, your arms are out, or in? What is happening here? They love to talk about it. Coordinate. Okay. They love to talk about coordinate. And you just know coordination is a bad word, definitely invented by the Eastern Republics, of communist countries. I remember Bela Karolyi in his book talked about gymnasts being coordinated, and I was like, this is a bad word. This is the thing. Yeah. This is hell. This is...
Okay. Now, also, we were talking about, on TSL we get to see... I thought we had a lovely time with Alyona when we interviewed her. And
lovely girl.
Whatever summer that was. She was actually a very easy interview, I thought. But it's always interesting to see the houses.
Yeah.
You know, I just love doing that. And especially during this time on the news and in all these late night shows, you're seeing inside everybody's house. And she had a vibrant red wall, didn't she, Dave?
She did. I loved it.
It's the first thing I saw, and I thought, well, that's Dave. Yeah, it's like the red wall.
With a huge flat screen TV, a red wall, a nice carpet. And, you know, her handsome husband, like, at one point the baby started screaming and the husband just, like, whisked her away. I was like, Alyona's got a nice life, okay? And,
she's got to figure it out for her,
But I have to think, that's why that partner is staying in Switzerland. I mean, come on. To train with Alyona for 2 years? Maybe we don't know what we're asking of him. Maybe it's too much.
He's still winding down, He's still cooling off.
She needs to give him some more, like, toy Porsches for the child, because it's just too much. You know, she's just...
Well, because they did that Instagram quad twist, right, on the floor. I was like, dear Lord, she's doing it again.
Yeah. She is doing it again. Yeah. So, but I think that was an old video. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I misunderstood that. Okay.
Because I don't think they're quarantining together. Yeah, unless she taught the husband.
But I wouldn't put it past her to try.
Yeah.
For Beijing.
I would not put it past her. Maybe in the singles event, maybe an ice dance. I said.
Maybe in the men's. I don't know.
I'm like, you know, Alyona, Igor used to be fake German, so you could be German together. I don't think that's, you know.
Yeah.
So I love how these people switch countries like it's nothing. So I support it.
Yeah.
You know?
I do too, because to me, as just a fan of the sport, I just want to see her competing. I don't care what flag is on her back. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Last week, we had heard about like different rinks opening and closing and who's where. So, and I was, you know, it felt a little more dicey last week to discuss it because it's, you know, it's very emotionally charged for a lot of people.
It's triggering. It's triggering,
and I understand it. And it's triggering for multiple reasons. You have the danger factor of people getting sick. What's responsible? What's not? And I think that no one is 100% confident about any social distancing going to work, going back into work, like we don't know, and that's hard for a lot of people and scary. And then can you do it safely? And you know, there are so many just little variables there. You think about like bathrooms and you know, there are so many things.
As we were talking elevators, I don't remember when we were talking about that, like in every office building. The whole thing, it's such a mess.
And then, you know, some people are in states where the rinks could reopen, and some people are in states where it's not going to reopen, and then some people have ice times and resources and rinks closing, and also, even if you want to be safe, then people are out of work, and that's hard too, and not everyone can survive on, you know, so there's all of different variables here, so I get it. But I have heard that a lot of people were in at a rink in Delaware training, and it was like Gracie Gold and Alyssa Liu and Ting all training together. So I guess Ting is back from her ankle, and Alyssa Liu was there. I knew Alexa Paganini was in Georgia. I think she went to Switzerland. You know, and I had known people that were going back to Japan a couple weeks ago because some of the rinks were going to start opening there, but they had to be quarantined for 2 weeks first. So you think about all of it, and we see Vincent is skating with Tom. Now, the Canadian border is closed, but Tom Z, being so Tom Z, is working with Vincent, it seems, and then posting his jumps all over Instagram. So is Tom Z like trying to get him back as a student, being very Tom, even in quarantine, trying to poach students? It just seems so perfect.
Robin Wagner. Oh, yeah, okay. See, it's all coming back to 2002. Okay.
I do have a friend that works at a rink where he is at, and he said that Vincent's quads hadn't really gotten consistently cleaner before the Worlds. So there's more work to be done. I think, you know, in a program, out of a program, the percentage wasn't where it would have needed to be. So, but yeah, just, I think...
Because, and now people are posting about it. And that's definitely a change. If people were somehow getting by before, they now feel it's okay to be posting it. And even like mothers of skaters, like it seems like they're being sent video of it or something like that. It's kind of interesting because Rolf was talking about in the interview we discussed last week, where if they're just going to have 5, 6 on the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you go, yeah, so like in Russia, they're supposed to open their training centers for the skaters and the gymnasts, I think tomorrow is when they're supposed to officially. So anyone, that's what we know, that everyone's been training. So we'll have to see. And we did see a workout with Kosternaya and Shcherbakova together on Instagram Live. So, I mean, things are starting to sort of get back.
Where was Trusova?
Well, she wasn't invited. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if they all had to unfollow her. I haven't checked that. I wasn't.
Okay. Privy to that information.
That seems petty to check, but.
Yeah. Okay.
I imagine.
Now, I was going to ask you because in the Tarasova interview that came out, she was talking about Eteri opening a second rink, which I have to say I was unaware what that was in reference to.
So I wanted to ask someone. My understanding is that maybe she will have 2 ice surfaces going at the same time and have.
I see. Okay.
You know, her underling coaches with more skaters. Maybe where Hot Sergey would have worked with the younger skaters on one rink and more advanced group on another. So her empire will expand. Don't worry. Eteri is going to be okay. We will find another. Okay, just as we find another. Trusova, we will find another Hot Sergey, and I am sure Eteri, you know, it's one step back. It's
yeah, she's got it. She's got it.
She's got it. We'll find a new one, okay?
Yeah.
So
okay. I didn't know if like a new rink was opening after this or what that was, but just there's more ice.
The interesting thing is that Alexander Volkov, I've heard of a couple people having either Zoom lessons or Zoom classes with him. Like, they're taking those American dollars when they can get it. And I was like, given that information, I would fascinated. I'm like, is there a Q&A section? I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And someone texted me about it, and I was thinking, like, and why did you wait until after the class to let me know that they were coming?
Right.
I would love to know the whole situation. So, Hot Sergey has not done any Zoom calls that I've heard of. So, I don't know, if you on a Zoom call with Hot Sergey,
on the prowl, yeah,
please, we would love. Okay, so he could lead a workout with Alyona. Maybe they could do it together. We could just.
It'd be lovely. Him and Trusova together. Yes, be fun.
Also, at one point I was working with Victor, and he was like, "Well, I was in the Novka show," and sometimes it's like mind blowing. It's like, wait, he knows her. Like, that's, like, these are real people who are in these, like, immense dramas. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know several people who know Novka. It's just, yeah. Like, okay.
So many degrees of separation.
I know.
Okay.
I'm how close to Putin? How many people away?
Right. Exactly.
It's crazy. Yes.
Amazing. You're like, are you invited to parties? Like, how does this work? Are you on a Christmas card list? Yeah.
I mean, amazing. We love all of them. Okay. This is just...
It's true. It's true.
But I was thinking about the people getting back on the ice. The interesting thing is that we still don't know when countries open their borders, how the 2-week quarantine will work, how long is that going to be in effect for, and I think that that's one of the major things that we haven't fully taken into consideration when we think that when planning for events in the fall. So the ISU is trying to hold out and have their Grand Prix events to keep the sport going, to keep everything going. The difficult thing about this is not just having events, so you can have them with an audience or with not, because you could have an event without a crowd, which would still be pretty intense. It would just be kind of like a
monitoring session
that they do in Champs Camp or something, where there's like not really.
Well, or what are those Russian test skates? Do they have full audiences for those? Not really.
They used to not, and then they do now. They sell tickets
because obviously they still carry a great weight of intensity to them, even without the big crowd. Yeah.
Or like the verification that they do at the USA Gymnastics events for sometimes to select teams. So they could do it like that, but the difficult thing comes if you're traveling internationally, there's that quarantine that goes into effect. So are you going to try to have a Grand Prix where people are expected to be quarantined and then not working out for 2 weeks? Because imagine if you're going to go to an event and you're going to lose 2 weeks of preparation. Who's really going to do that? Rather than... Then they were talking about how, the NHL is trying to get everyone in 2 cities. That way they could try to just have everyone within a bubble and like bubble cities where they would start.
Good luck with that. Yeah. I mean,
they would at least have more of a shot, and they're not traveling internationally besides the US and Canada. Maybe they could they could work around. But there's so many difficult things that you think about that would take a lot of planning. And if they're not planning now for that, then you're hoping that things will ease up enough by the fall. But then that there's a good chance that then there won't be a fall season. So I think that.
But even I have to tell you, like even if there was no crowd, there's still lots of trainers, judges, athletes, coaches,
and those people are older, all right?
Yeah,
potentially more at risk too. So
right. So it's very tricky. I mean, if we're being honest, I don't see how the Grand Prix is at all possible. But I do see that they could start at their nationals, you know, the ones that start at the end of the year and then into 4 continents and Europeans and so on.
Yeah, I hope so. It's like...
Because we were, when we, again, did the Tatiana Volosozhar article a couple weeks ago, when she was saying, before the skaters can even develop new programs, they need 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the boots, 2 weeks for the legs, blah, 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 blah. And then it was interesting because in the Nathan article that came out, he was giving it 2 months. Like he would need bare minimum 2 months from his first day on the ice till his first competition. So it's interesting. So again, even when things start to ease up, who knows if everyone's going to have all that baking time.
And Nathan has a pretty good understanding of his body. Like we'll see him add quads throughout the season. He seems to know a lot about what his base is and things like that. Where other athletes, you never know. They might not have had this time off before, coming back from an injury and things like that with different people. Yeah, and not everyone has the same work ethic in quarantine either. And for good and bad reasons.
Or discipline, right? Yeah, exactly.
Because some of this is a mental, emotional game. Can you force yourself to push or to improve and heal your body and work on your weaknesses every day? I think there will be a lot of skaters that push ahead, but I think it'll be similar to skaters who were already hard workers on the ice. Will probably be hard. I don't think that will change very much.
Conversely, though, I think we're going to see a group of skaters that will try too hard, and I could see this. This first couple weeks coming back, I fear we could see a lot of injuries from overzealous attempts. Especially, and I'm not saying this to slam, but some of those Atari girls. What makes them such fierce competitors is that tremendous drive. But I could see that tremendous drive almost pushing them too far.
And as much as people do shape, I do think that the coaching staff would try to develop some sort of a plan for
to be cautious. Yeah, exactly. I think it would be a great risk to be injured in that first year.
Oh, yeah. And it will happen, unfortunately. I mean, for skaters, I mean, the likelihood of that happening is high. But
because the other thing I was going to ask you, since you've been doing so much high-level work on off-ice elements, is how you think you will find it translates the minute you're back on the ice. If now there's this adjustment period to really figure out how it applies once you're back on the ice,
for sure,
or if you think just everything will already just start at a higher level because you're firing in a different way.
So that's interesting, but you use your muscles in a different way skating. Even if you work the muscles, the way that motion of skating is so different from anything else that you do. And you can't really simulate it. They've tried 1,000,001 things, the gliders, the everything. It's like the way you push your muscle, I think, is so different. Even times that I've come back to the ice in pretty good shape, because I didn't want to come back in bad shape, it's always hard. The soreness is really bad at first, just until you get those muscles up. So I think for a lot of skaters, it will be not a fun period. It'll be something we hear about in fluff pieces, the Olympics.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mean, like, for instance, all the axle work you did with Victor, I didn't know if then suddenly it's like, boom, it just happens.
So it'll happen much quicker than it would, and that's why you work off ice. But you have to start from, like, no speed and make sure that you fight things in your body to really do it. But then once you get the technique, obviously, it helps it. So, it doesn't happen, like, first try. But
of course.
So... I feel much better about my axle than I did before, even when I had rotated on the ice before, because my technique I didn't have an understanding of, like, the technique beyond, like, someone told me, like you're walking up the stairs and then you go into the spin, but it wasn't in the same way of, like, the detailed, broken down approach to it. So, and then I think back to some of the drills that I was doing and how that's so different than what I'm doing now, and I'm like, I think they were wrong, or I think that was a different technique for it. So anyway, it's
Yeah, I think it will be really interesting as you go back to talk about where you land. I wasn't even trying.
I don't feel as afraid of it. It became a mental block because I fell the wrong way on my axle, which I bet is part how I was doing it, and then I was trying to do it on one foot, and I changed something, and I kept falling the wrong way, and then I got a hematoma on my left leg, and you keep falling on that, and it's the most like horrible pain. So that after that happened, I just like didn't want to go for it ever. And you know, I can be really good at being stubborn and forcing myself not to do something, and then it became like a mental block. So part of what I'm working through by working it off back is like getting through the mental block part of it. So because there were times that my coach would want me to do it in a lesson, I really didn't want to. I was like, I'm not in the mood today, but like, no, we're going to do it. And like, I don't think I was fully invested. And even if I wanted to, my brain was like still remembering like how bad it was that other time. So, yeah, I don't know. Are there notes that you don't want to do in singing that someone says, let's do those? And you're like, let's not.
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, it's one of those moments when you're like, do we do the worst part? Do we do the part that failed last time? You know what I mean? And you're like, oh, no, I got that part. Some people, it's called marking, right? In a rehearsal where you just kind of come off the voice because you're just going through the rehearsal. And some people will always mark certain areas. And you think that's never going to happen in the show. If it doesn't happen now, if you don't just do it a couple times, it's never going to happen. And sure enough, that it's almost always the case. So
when Jennifer Holliday sings that song in Dreamgirls with Jennifer Hudson, do they mark that note? Do they just go like...
I mean, Jennifer Holliday, she has got to have cords of steel because I don't physically know how the muscles can receive that kind of repeated treatment and not be damaged. Like, she has facility.
So is that the vocal equivalent of a quad? Like, what's happening there? Like, are we...
No, you know what? That's the vocal equivalent of like a triple axel. Like a big Midori Tanya triple axel. That's what that is.
How do you work up to that? You know, do you just...
I think you're born with some of that. Okay. I think some of that is inherently born. Yeah.
I once saw an interview with Celine where she was saying that she doesn't speak before a performance for like a day or two. But then when she was in Vegas, she was on all the time. So what was Celine doing? I don't know.
Well, but Celine also, she can control the mic volume. Oh. Now, Jennifer Holliday, she's letting it rip every time, right?
Does Celine sing every night in that Vegas show, or does she lip sync some of the songs and sing live?
Well, she might, because she actually... I feel like she's a technician. Like, I feel like she knows, she has facility of what she's doing, where I think Jennifer Holliday's just kind of winging it, and she has just been blessed. And so it just comes out.
What about my girl Barbara, who's afraid of disappointing the audience?
She can't, because she is truly unbelievable. Come on. I wish someone would skate to, although maybe I'm going to regret saying this. My favorite thing is that duet with Judy Garland and... Barbra Streisand.
Where Judy's hands were shaking, and Barbara didn't understand it at the time, but now she understands.
Right, Barbara, get it together. Come on now. That one was pretty obvious. Yeah, but I wonder if that would be nice for someone to skate to. But Barbara totally has a facility. Oh, 2002. We were talking about Leanne Rimes doing the Olympic theme.
Light the fire within.
Yes, exactly. Which she was doing until the damn kids chorus came in and ruined everything. What is this?
It sounded like...
Get him out of here.
It sounded like every elementary school concert that I was ever in, where the kids are doing a combination of singing and shouting, and you're not exactly sure what is the difference.
But you're sure you don't enjoy it, or at least that was my take.
Did you have to do those in elementary school, Jonathan? Did you have those annual spring... I hated them as a kid, even though it was torture. The whole thing was horrible. Our teacher was not a nice woman, and it was just...
Okay.
So we had to get dressed up and like not get messy all day and not run around at recess. I don't know. It felt like the worst.
Well, Dave, I was the opposite. Now we're just on a tangent. In elementary school, I often got in trouble because I would wear, on my own accord, dress clothes to school.
Like Michael J. Fox in Family Ties?
Yes, 100%. But then you couldn't do gym. They're like, you're not wearing gym shoes, you can't do gym. And I was like, oh,
is that why you weren't at the Alyona workout? Is that why I didn't see you there?
I was in dress shoes. That was the whole problem.
Like, Michael Shirley is always opening his pool, but he never goes in the pool. So I'm like, why are you cleaning it all the time? He uses that as his excuse for everything. He never goes in that pool. I go in the pool, but I never see him in that pool.
I love going in pools.
He's too busy. He loves to skim it, like, obsessive compulsively all the time. So
interesting. You're like, most people tolerate that for the swimming, but you're just tolerating the swimming so you can clean the pool?
I think he loves the cleaning. I think he enjoys and complaining.
I bet there's something meditative about it. I like keeping my place clean and like cleaning those surfaces. Like, that's nice. Yeah. I don't know if you can hear the ruckus outside.
Yes, what's happening there?
It's that 7 o'clock
banging of
things that sound like the bottom of a downhill ski run.
I thought it sounded almost like a musical instrument. I was like, is someone practicing upstairs? Do we have a cello?
No, it's like a kazoo. Someone has an air horn. It sounds like cowbells. It's like people with pots and pans and stuff.
Yes, because as a frontline worker, there's nothing I enjoy more than a cowbell and some pots and pans to get me feel appreciated.
They don't want your applause. They want hazard pay. Let's keep going.
Oh my goodness! I would lick some of that. Yeah. You know,
right? No kidding. Jeez Louise.
Although I actually had work like Christmas the other day, but so at work there are like always like multiple levels of reviews that things have to go through, and everyone likes to make a lot of changes, and there's a lot of pressure, and you're being judged and evaluated, and so we found out that like one of the layers of review got stripped away, and it was like, it was just, so much.
One of your bullet points for GOE was erased.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
It was like you didn't have to get all like the first 3 bullets to get the next 3. Basically, that's like what happened. We were like, oh my gosh, oh yes, gasping for breath. Yes, it was
small miracles. Yeah, that's
small
great.
Miracles. Yeah, it was a good week, but I have to say that. So Alexa gave me exercises to do, right? So, and like, people have like, when you do reps with like exercise science, like some people believe, do the 10 reps, but some people believe to break it down and that's going to do it. But it just so happened that I was doing them every day. And on top of it, we had to do wall sits. And Igor goes, okay, let's do one leg. And then I was doing those. I was doing my like pistol squats, you would call like the shoot the duck lowers. And then I was landing. And at one point, my quad just like gave out. So now I've been like resting it in between jumping days and trying to not do lots of squats. But eventually we're going to have to.
Do you think that this is the most in shape you've ever been?
No, but it's one of the most.
I was going to say, dear Lord.
I went through a really strong period when I first went to you become in shape in different ways. So, like the entire time I was skating, I was in shape in like different ways because sometimes I was doing more yoga off the ice or sometimes. But when I joined workouts at work, there was this real crazy woman who used to lead boot camp classes at work, and because I went every day and just worked up to it. And but eventually I was like, you know what, I'm over it. And like all of a sudden I just like stopped and couldn't force myself to go back. So I have to, for me it's like very mental to work up to working out. Like even if I take off from yoga for like a week or 2, I immediately my mind goes, oh, you're gonna be so sore when you go back. Don't worry about that today, just go walking outside. And then like I will procrastinate just doing the thing that I want to do because of the soreness, even though it's never that bad. I mean, it's bad, but you complain about it and move back. So anyway.
Okay.
But let's move along to Tarasova. The one thing I liked about the Eteri article is that she basically does say that she had no recollection of who Eteri was on the ice, because Eteri was in her group, and how this is set up is that Tarasova will have assistants. But she still will correct you if you're on the ice and she sees you and she feels like it in that moment or has a minute. She will start like yelling it to people on the ice. But I was even talking to someone who took from her in Connecticut, but who really took from her assistant coaches. And she was like, well, they all teach in her way. And she doesn't directly coach you, but she still has her pulse of the situation. So
well, a bit how like maybe a Terry is with her own skaters. But it was interesting because I thought the way they broke it down was that a Terry said, "Oh yeah, Tarasova never worked with me. She only focused on Marina."
Well, and that was
then that was the right choice. And then Tarasova was like, "Well, yeah, I get super laser focused. I didn't really remember her." Then in the next sentence, she goes, "She has really good skating skills. She was a good skater." And I was like, "You just said you didn't know who she was as a skater." So
I love like the truthiness and the BS in any. I mean, obviously you have to have a certain level of skating to get into Tarasova's group to begin with, but it's amazing how they have to be like, "Well, she was a good skater. She was a terrible skater." You know, you're
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So it's all relative, but yeah, so she would have been in that group in 91-92 when Svetlana Alexieva, who was working with Alyona and Zhiganshin the last couple years, she used to be Tarasova's assistant, and they were kind of working together, and they were creating the teams and all of that. So yeah. So it's.
But I thought it was interesting because, like, you know, you read something like the Tarasova article, and it's so over the top and flowery, and you can it's dripping in drama.
Yeah.
And then to go read Nathan's interview, which was like matter of fact, bullet point.
How do the Russians learn how to give an interview like that? Like, they always deliver. You know that if Raphael gives an interview or Tatiana, they are just going to not.
Buyanova, she's given us some tremendous interviews this past season.
And Boncharenko, too, the one that used to coach Rodionova. Now we see why Rodionova would be doing the Titanic at the end of the program, because this coach understood a good punch.
Yeah, she was going down. But also, like, the Mishin interview is also full of stuff and not afraid to say some things. But
so with the Nathan one, it was interesting. He didn't want to commit to whether or not he is going to Yale in the fall, but it seems like if Yale has online classes, he'll maybe take some online. But
because it said that it sounded like they were going to announce, Yale was going to announce in July, and he was going to let that, because
but they said that he rented an apartment, and I'm sure he has enough money to rent maybe an apartment in both places. Who knows? But
it sounded like the plan was in place for him to not go back. But now that they may be able to do it online, he would consider doing that. Yeah. So
the article didn't just say that directly. Like, let's just, you know, there was a lot of Russian circular logic going on here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I was just about to ask something, and then it totally left me. So
Nathan will be doing online classes with the rest.
So here's what I'm wondering. It's interesting because, obviously, I can read English, and it's Nathan's first language.
Yes.
I don't get a sense, because it's too difficult through translations and articles, things like this, what Hanyu comes across like in articles. If it's more, I'd be intrigued to hear from maybe some of our native Japanese speakers if it seems, is it more Russian in flavor? Is it full of like flowery drama in connotation, or is it a bit more dry like Nathan's? I'd be intrigued what his kind of public voice sounds like.
Well, how often does he give in-depth interviews beyond the
Not
questions?
very often.
Beyond the questions during event season, which is not the time you're going to usually get really thought out answers from people. Usually those are more planned and strategic interviews. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Yeah,
well, I mean, again, back to 2002, just when we were watching all of those, each person's interview was so telling about that individual. So I just don't have a sense for some of, like,
come on, when Michelle has the blown out hair and she is walking up that path in Lake Arrowhead, and she's like, when the pressure is on you, you can gain strength.
Hire your dad.
And she's like, you can gain strength, or you can, and then eat you alive. But, like, has a person ever looked more fabulous, like doing one of those stretches where you're on your back and your feet are like above your head? Like, somehow she looks so glamorous doing it in the ice rink that's like with the windows. I mean, she looked great. Okay.
Yeah. It was a moment.
She really, like, whatever, like, producer was like, let's have you walking outside. They really filmed that Oh, yeah.
Just right.
Cinematography was so good. Okay. Yeah.
So is yours. You have this like lovely like natural light coming in on you. It's very artsy. It's very Russian.
My dad gave me a quarantine cut. I've been teaching him how to do my hair. You know, we've been experimenting with. This was our third try, I think. So.
Okay. It always looks very neat and clean.
Well, it's I try to be things about it. So
yeah.
But yeah, I'm curious what will happen. They were saying that. So if the Tokyo Olympics get delayed beyond 2021, they're just going to cancel it. And it's so.
Yes, I think it's the right move. If they have to postpone it.
So they were saying that that's because of the organizing committee, that they can't keep everyone employed and they're already maybe taking a loss. And I was talking to different reporters about what they think this will all happen. Some don't think it'll happen. Some think that maybe, should there not be a vaccine, that maybe they will have an Olympics where with just no audience, because NBC will say, we need these Olympics, we spent so much money and let's have it. Or, the broadcast organizations at large. However, you wonder how they will handle the qualifying to those events if,
that's what's tricky, because each sport is going to have its own schedule attached to it and how it's impacted. Some probably don't really do much and then just show up at the Olympics kind of for their big moment. Other sports are so calculated throughout the entire time. It's going to be tricky, but I think they're right. The idea that they could just postpone it again, you're getting into such tricky waters.
Yeah.
I'm just curious when they're going to decide by, because that's the tricky bit
too. You got to know, like, how long are you going to keep pushing yourself for?
Yeah.
And are there going to be NCAA seasons this year, if they're doing in season or not? Is there going to be a football season? Like, even for those athletes that are usually training now, it's hard to get yourself up mentally when you really don't know if they're going to have it or not. It could go a myriad of ways. So I think that's the hardest part, is that there is going to be that kind of like ping pong for a lot of these athletes. And that's really challenging when there's so much attached to it. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting is that Kurt Thomas was the best gymnast in 79 and going into 80. And then at one point he was going to be turned professional to make money because they couldn't make money back then. He had a back injury and I think he just bagged it. He was like, we're not going to the Olympics anyway. Who cares? But then when they talk about the 1980 Olympians, he isn't mentioned. I've always wondered, like, does that bother him? But he already went to an Olympics before, so it's not like he doesn't have that designation. But you were supposed to like potentially win those Olympics or win a lot of medals. I think he was second in the all-around worlds the year before. Like, do you care? Like, are you more angry about the fact that there wasn't an Olympics rather than if you're going to be in some book about it? I don't know. Right. I'm sure there's a lot of complex thoughts about the entire situation.
Totally.
And then you're like,
but again, this is different because it's an across the board situation, which makes it
for every country
unlike anything. Yeah,
I know it's just unfortunate.
It's hard to know.
Yeah, and
because I was thinking if this was skating, because obviously you know so much about the gymnastics and I hardly. But if we were like a year out, if this was like a March or February before an Olympics, like we're talking about these 2-month windows, these 2-week windows, at what point do you need to know by if you're really going to make a run for it?
It's interesting. You have to live like in a protective, it sounds harsh, but like you have to delude yourself a bit as an athlete to be able to train to push yourself as hard. Like you have to believe that you can do it, even if other people don't. And like it can be a form of like delusion at times until you fake it till you make it, right? I think even for people before Worlds, we all didn't know if it was going to be canceled or not. But, a lot of people didn't think that it would be canceled because they're like, well, the skaters are already here. And it's like, this is about more than just the skaters being in Canada. This is like bigger ramifications. So, yeah, I think that you have to believe that it's going to go on. But at a certain point, you have to also come to grips. So, yeah, that's challenging.
Yeah, and I don't know how much is decided for gymnasts like it is for skating with the programs and stuff. I don't know if a floor routine or their combination of elements on a balance beam is thought out ahead of time and with such complexity as a skating program. let alone
yes,
2.
Yeah.
If they really need that much time, if they were holding out maybe some of their best content, like Nathan mentioned, he doesn't want to repeat programs, but depending on what happens with the timing, it may be inevitable for a lot of people that they have to repeat programs. And sometimes you may be saving your big idea for your Olympic season.
It's also a cost too for skaters. Yeah. Like, think about how much money it could potentially cost to get new programs. Here's the thing. I think you have to mentally, as a skater and as a viewer, I would stop looking at this season as a normal season, mentally. I would kind of use this season to thinking about like how the world is right now. I would kind of have to shift focus and be like, this is going to be a weird year. Who knows who's going to look good, who's going to be injured, who's going to look bad? Are we going to have competitions? Are we not going to have competitions? I kind of think as a skater, you have to kind of start working on areas to improve. If you need to work on your components, if you need to work on your skating skills, maybe use this time as like the long period of time.
Well, for skaters, this could work because this could be a window of opportunity to ultimately improve for the Olympics, because there's enough time before the Olympics.
You never have enough time. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Like, you never have enough time to really work on your skating skills and your edges and work on harder jumps, because you're always working on training the program and getting in shape for that and doing all
this could feel like an endless summer in a nice way.
Yeah, and I think that for a lot of people, like, this would be a perfect time for Vincent Zoe to work on those skating skills and then work on the rotations of his jumps and like to really handle those two things.
And you have time to deconstruct things and build them back instead of cramming or covering up because you've got to hurry. Yeah.
Which I don't know if Tom Z is going to be the one to help him get his skating skills in order, but I think that this would be a great time to address those sorts of things. So because if you don't have the fall competition, then you have to start running programs as early. So then you can really take more time to get ready. So I think that would be beneficial to a lot of athletes. I think you have to stop looking at this season, and if like you can compete this year, it's a bonus. And then if you say that there's only spring competitions and you don't do that well, who really cares? It's like a practice. It was like the season that didn't count, and then you move along.
We know skaters, for instance, like Christopher Bowman, what an archaic example, but like this would be someone who thrives only in competition.
And show.
So we would have lost him now.
He would have maybe been playing video games or out partying.
He would have gained 100 pounds.
I know, but then he's the type that's probably annoying and would have lost it right away and like been like, well, I saved my body for a year.
Yeah.
But then maybe you get injured losing the weight, but
because if your only motivation is a result versus like we're talking about, we know when some of these skaters are like grand pupils of the art form of skating and want this self-betterment, the Meagans, the Alyonas, these ones that love working towards a bigger picture. But if you're only result driven, gosh, I don't know.
It would be a great time for Papadakis and Cizeron to do something that's like not in a style that people would criticize, to maybe explore other musical
what
styles.
Would that be for them? I think they could do anything and someone would find something.
Well, maybe they could do a tango program and work on that, like a new style. And this would really be time to explore that art form, right? Like to really do something just completely different and add your spin to it. Like it would be a great time to really force a new identity and new music to fall in love with.
Take risks, to be vulnerable and experiment. Again, things that we may never see the light of competition, but may ultimately inform some really exciting Olympic programs.
Yeah. So I think
because again, devastating for Summer Olympians. I think all of this will hit them the hardest, but I think for skating in particular, if you play it right and you're all mindful about it, it could actually push the art form forward.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah.
For the summer, I mean, I think that they're probably, I don't know. I think that there'll be an Olympics, but I don't know that there'll be, right? Just the way the things, but I don't.
So for gymnastics, for example, when do you think, based on their kind of competitive schedule and the way they might look at a season, when would they need to know for sure if it was happening by? in order to get qualifications set up?
Well, they would have to know before December I mean, all these events are planned, like, tentatively, but they have to really start pushing. I would say over the next couple months, they have to have a good idea about whether or not this is going to really happen. So, but you know, they already had this whole series with points, and they could always just kind of go along with it. I mean, if they really want some of these events to happen, they could force it to happen and come up with decisions to go by rankings or go by this. If they need to have these events, if they're going to turn skating back on, you know, for the 2022 Olympics, and you know, they had 3 months to prepare, they would find a way. Don't you, like, They wouldn't be like, oh no, we didn't have the Grand Prix to get ISU points. Like, they would figure it out. You know, they would, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, more to come. But I do think that as skaters are back in the rink, we're going to see better Instagram posts pretty soon because...
Yeah, they'll be eager.
I know. Some of them, it's gotten boring, right? Like, people that were so... upfront on their social media at the beginning of quarantine, then they have backed off. I also look at Instagram
unsustainable.
I find I look at some Instagram less because there's nothing to look at. It's like, who cares?
Dave, sometimes I get this mortifying thing that says, you're all caught up. And that is Instagram being like, yep, you saw everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh gosh. That's dark. And you know, you double close apps on the iPhone. Yeah. I will find myself being like, okay, I've looked at enough Instagram, double closing Instagram, going to my menu and just instinctively re-hitting Instagram and reopening it. I was like, this is,
there's nothing to look at. It's nothing.
Exactly. You're all caught up. Yeah. So.
I know. So boring.
I know. Well, unless you're like getting in Olympic shape, Dave.
Well, that I look at, but...
You and all your gold medal workouts.
Only Ukrainians, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's true, actually. Interesting.
I know. I have to finish my interview with Tatiana Gutsu and then edit that. Yes, only Ukrainians. So...
Yes. Yeah. It's a theme. It's a theme month.
I'm not even... I don't know. But there are different like things to look at. But yeah, it's... I don't know. I actually haven't had a lot of time to binge watch shows. So I started to say, I'm going to binge watch. Did you watch The Last Dance yet?
This is the Michael Jordan thing?
Yes. Oh, it's so
but I need to because it's clearly, it's firing up a lot of things and a lot of people. And of course, I was in Chicago during all of that. I went to a lot of those championship final games, just there for the nachos, of course.
But the pageantry of it was great, right?
It was the energy from those spectators was unlike anything I had
What color
ever
was
felt.
Dennis's hair when you were there? Do you remember?
Well, he was towards the end, so I watched some also before he was there. I thought it was just like kind of a bleachy thing.
Oh no!
And an occasional pinky red. I remember.
It was green. So. It was lime green for some of these. Okay, and I forgot that he had left mid NBA Finals. He went off and did a WWF event or. I think with Hulk Hogan, but now it's WWE because I think it's not the World Wildlife Foundation.
I know. I love that, and I love that the World Wildlife Federation won.
Yes,
that's my favorite. The panda one. Yeah.
So I caught up on that, but it's interesting is that from a documentary, they gave Michael Jordan kind of editorial control. Now, while it's controversial and then puts everything into question, because it starts out a Bulls documentary, it becomes way more about him even than just him and the others. Inadvertently, he kind of ticked off a lot of his teammates because though Scottie Pippen was a great number 2 player...
He was a number 1 player also, I mean...
All the plot points about Scottie happen to be like maybe the more unfortunate dramas, and it'll be like... Michael's great game and Scottie had a back injury. Michael's great game and Scottie had a migraine. But you don't know about all the brilliant things Scottie did. But he also wasn't really a facilitating scorer. But because Michael had so much editorial input, they don't focus on all the great things that maybe Scottie or Dennis did. It's just like Michael the hero and the other people. And you can see that there are a lot of unresolved issues there. To be in someone's... shadow.
Do they also talk about Luke Longley? Is he featured in the film?
Yeah.
Because he was one, and he was, I don't remember where he was from.
Croatia.
One of the former, Okay, I was going to say somewhere over there. But as a kid, I remember my heart broke for him because there was this tradition that I misunderstood. And when he would come out onto the court, everyone would go, Luke, or do this kind of thing. And I definitely thought this poor immigrant was coming on the court and everyone was booing him every game. And I was like, no, you guys.
So one of the things that this documentary didn't do well is like feature characters throughout. In the beginning, they really feature and they introduce you to each person. Now, there are so many different personalities on this documentary, but they talk about Luke Longley coming over, and they say that he was like signed to the Bulls, but they signed him without telling Scottie Pippen and Michael, or something. How like they didn't run it past Michael and Scottie.
It was a Johnny Carson, Joan Rivers situation.
Yes,
okay.
And there's like all that business. So then they kind of roughed him up during the Olympics and weren't necessarily kind. They weren't like, oh, we're going to be teammates. They were like, you had to earn your trust. Also, Michael Jordan has yellow eyes. And he doesn't talk about it, and like everyone's been Googling, like, what's going on with his eyes? Because it's indicative that he has something wrong with him that he's not talking
about.
Like
a hepatitis-y thing or like jaundice-y thing.
Yeah, we've stared at them for 10 hours. I'm going to say he has some sort of a medical condition that he doesn't want to make public. But...
Well, he's been surprisingly quiet in the public eye, sort of in general, right? I mean, I remember talking about 2002. The way I felt about Michelle Kwan's decision to leave Frank and Lori was also how I felt when suddenly Michael Jordan was a minor league baseball player.
Yes.
Right? And then ever since then, I never really saw him in the limelight anymore.
So, and I don't know if this is just because he had editorial control, but the owner or the manager said that they think he would have found his way into the major leagues had that continued. Now, they didn't say that he would be a star. They said that he would have found his way in because he was improving, though he wasn't like a star. So, and I was wondering like how much of that is because based on his star power, to sell tickets that they would push him through, but they were saying that he just had that kind of drive and determination that he was going to find a way, and he had to redo his body in different ways. So I thought that was interesting about it. But then I'm wondering as we watch everything, knowing that he had, because I watched interviews with the director, I'm like, how much of this does it say that he would have made it into the major leagues? Because this is within his, his perspective and point of view that he has some influence.
Well, or is it something like how we've even said, like you put Meagan Duhamel or something in a different sport, and she probably would have excelled at it also through sheer willpower.
Yes. Yeah, and the work ethic and the discipline and things like that.
Yeah, so, and just the physical ability. Yeah.
But then there was also a, they didn't play. The players wouldn't play. There was a boycott one season, so boycott isn't the right word, but anyway, they did not play in that one in '95. So and then he went back to basketball. So it was a players' dispute. So just an interesting thing going on there, but. I recommend.
So I should watch it. You're saying.
Oh yes, and I've read Phil's book, and then I read a book about Phil. They're all good. It's a great rabbit hole to go down. The book about Phil is maybe called Mind Games, because that talks more about some of his more controversial aspects that he doesn't talk about in 11 Rings. And you can realize that Phil himself is a fascinating coach and figure who uses a lot of Native American mindfulness tactics.
I do remember that. Yeah,
and they don't talk about it that much within the documentary. So it was more interesting learning about it. So anyway, I recommend it. It's a great rabbit hole to go down, and with great characters and the way that and I think the controversy only made me want to watch it more. But now I want to catch up on Dead to Me. I want to see what are those girls doing with Christina Applegate and things like that.
I heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. I need some more quarantine shows.
But I have to tell you, instead of binge watching shows, when you put up full events, it's kind of fun for me to say, I'm now watching 88 women's nationals. And that becomes like the evening is kind of watching it in order, an event that I don't really recall, save a performance here or there. So that's kind of more fun binge watching for me.
We have fun ones coming. I've been doing the events at night, usually around 10-ish. Sometimes it's seeing what I have loaded up. I had to get a new converter. My converter wasn't like working. I don't know if that was causing an issue. So like my audio and video were a little bit off, and it was bothering me in a couple of them. And I had to get a new like little piece that I'm waiting for to plug into the Mac. But yes, there are going to be many, many more events. So I even have the 86 World with Victor's brother and Rudy Galindo. I think I have a Japanese coverage of that. And then there's, there are a bunch more coming. That I think.
Who would have been commentating for them then? Miss Watanabe.
I hope, yeah. And, it's just, there's some fascinating little gems coming that I think will be fun for everyone.
Exciting. But speaking of the Japanese thing, I really liked your stuff with Yuko Sato on See Alive.
She was good. I liked her.
Yeah, she was getting real. It was nice.
I liked her. Now I'm fascinated by this skater, Junka, I think was her name, like her big rival that she didn't consider to be Midori Ito. I am like fascinated by who was this skater and how did she think she could beat Yuko Sato? And,
yeah. Well, she didn't.
Well, she did in '88. Apparently, Yuka didn't make the Calgary Olympics, and she was upset about it. So, but yeah, no, we'll have some more fun judging. I got into the 2002 and the 2010 men, so.
Yes, that was really fun.
I think we need some Katarina fun, right? From '87, we need to.
Gosh, I think that could be really fun. Well, yeah, we've not done that sort of era. Well, no, we did '88 Olympics.
I know.
And I can't even remember how I ended up. I think I had. Yeah. Okay.
I was thinking we should do '87 Worlds, 2004 Worlds, maybe with like Sasha and Michelle and the time thing and Shizuka coming up and Carolina. Because with some of these, it's kind of interesting with some of these are around so many different eras when like different characters are like fading in and out.
Are crossing. It's like cross-generational for a little bit. Like, because when we start seeing Carolina and Michelle on the same ice and you're like, what's that happening now? But I remember that because it was Shizuka wore that black dress that looked like a jester hat and she should have gotten a costume deduction because I was like, I'm not buying what you're selling, but I'm seeing all of it. Like, dear Lord.
So that was when Sasha Cohen and Tarasova split, and then Tarasova took on Shizuka and made her world champion. It's going to be a fun deep dive. Recommend it. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be a good era. So
yes, agree.
Well, we hope you're all having a great week. So hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, everyone.